is Dr. Flavia Katamba. I'm a pediatrician working with Princeton Children's Medical Center. Princeton has 2 branches in Kololo and in Kajansi. I'm a mother and a wife too. I have special interest in pediatrics simply because children are the future of our next generation. So the topic I'm going to talk about today is picky eaters. Many of you may wonder why I have chosen such a topic. It cuts across many age groups. It affects toddlers, it affects preschoolers, it affects infants, teenagers, at times even adults. Picky eaters, a child who is a picky eater is any child that prefers particular foods or foods that they will only take foods that they've chosen.
All right. Thank you. What causes this in children?
Commonly, science says it's more of a trait. If a parent is a picky eater, there's a high possibility that their children are going to be picky eaters. That's what research says. But it's also a developmental phase that most children go through. It happens between the age of 2 and 4 years. And many of our children, we create picky eaters, we parents. We have a lot to do with it because there are children who are offered the same type of food from the time they are weaned. So that's the only type of food they will know. So it's important to introduce variety in your child's diet as early as 6 months. And it's said it affects over 50% of the pediatric population. Yeah. Picky eating becomes a problem if it goes on for so long. It causes serious nutrition problems. It can lead to malnutrition. You imagine a child who takes porridge day in, day out, and the same type of porridge, maize porridge, from January to January. They're going to end up with malnutrition because maize doesn't have any protein in it. So it's always important to offer variety. If you've given the child maize porridge today, the next day you do millet, the other day you do soya, to improve on the variety of nutrients that the child is getting. Apart from a parent, there are so many other things that could contribute to a child becoming a picky eater. For instance, some children may become picky eaters simply because they have a conduct disorder. Yeah, a conduct disorder could be parts of the problem. At other times, if a parent is not a role model, a child may end up being a picky eater because you may force your child to eat avocado and for you don't like the avocado. So you have to lead by example. And then it could also be associated with particular illnesses. For instance, if a child is having fat malabsorption, they may reject fatty foods simply because they are not easily digested. They know when I eat this, I'll end up with abdominal pain or diarrhea. So they will refrain from eating such foods. As I'd initially said, you have to lead by example. So try to eat with your child. Many of us mothers leave the house and we've not even bothered to tell the person we are leaving our child with the food that they should be offering. So you leave that power in the hands of the person that is staying with your child. At times they don't know. They're not well educated about nutrition. So it's important to have a structured menu that a child should possibly, that they should follow, the people preparing the child's food should follow. And it should have a well-balanced diet. Should have carbohydrates, proteins, minerals, fats, and multivitamins. When it goes far, majority of times you will find children either becoming undernourished or overweight, At times it's been associated with obesity, and an obese child can end up with problems, for instance, osteoarthritis. Mm? In severe situations, it can even lead to psychotic problems like depression. Like if a child wants to eat one particular food, if that food has been associated with depression, you may see a child who is behaving differently simply because of the food they are being offered. So, food basically, proper nutrition is the cornerstone to proper growth and development. For a child to develop properly, they need to have good nutrition. First, you need to set realistic expectations. Don't expect your child to eat a whole bowl of vegetables. And remember, vegetables and fruits are required in very small quantities in order to make an impact in someone's body. So you need to offer a reasonable portion. Make your child parts of the preparation, like prepare with your child a meal. At times that makes them more inquisitive and more interested in the vegetables you're going to offer. Try to make it fun. Make it fun, as in use various vegetables with various colors. Then you could opt to do smoothies, for instance, with the fruits. Yeah, to help ease and make the fruit more tastier. Or you could even use like dips or a soup, eh? And you show the child what to do. You eat the vegetables as you're dipping it within the soup, or tomato sauce, anything that you know your child is likely to enjoy. Milk is very, very important in the growth of a child. Ideally, a child should take milk at least till the age of 2. It's a well balanced diet. It has all the 5 elements, all the 5 types of food that are needed. So up to the age of 2. After the age of 2, if your child no longer enjoys milk, you shouldn't stress about it. Just simply provide other alternatives that can supply your child with calcium and phosphorus. Things like eggs, cereals, meat, because at that age they've really learned how to chew. Research has shown that a child that is a picky eater misses out on a lot. Because in order for a child to develop properly, they need to have a well-balanced diet. So in situations where you see your child is struggling and you've tried everything possible, I believe it does no harm to try a multivite, because multivitamins are needed in very small quantities. So on the days that your child has not managed to get the natural foods, the natural nutrients, you could provide that child with a multivite to replace or provide their daily nutritional allowance for that day. So to me, I believe multivites do no harm as long as they are given in moderation. That is a very, very tricky question. Most parents struggle with that because there are situations where you try everything possible and still things don't work out. But it's very important to make the best way to make a child eat. Try to make sure that you eat with them and don't always offer them the same type of food over and over again. Play around with the menu. Like, don't offer them Irish potato for lunch every single day. You have to be able to revise their menu on a monthly basis such that they can get to taste various types of foods. Yeah, then try to eat with them at the table. When they see other people eating, they may get the appetite to eat. Make it fun. Don't stress the child out or do forceful feeding. Forceful feeding actually is very dangerous because some children even end up choking. So make it fun. Take the child out. Allow him to eat as he's riding his bike or as he's watching TV. Yeah, you could do that till about the age of 6. Then after the age of 6, that's when the serious discipline comes in. But before the age of 6, your main goal should be to make sure that they get all the nutrients they need, because If they don't, it's going to have real serious repercussions later in their lives. Yeah, there are situations where they could be allergic or they just simply don't like the milk. In situations where a child is allergic, there are certain types of milk on the market that don't have a certain protein called the lactose protein. So such formulas don't have any lactose. Therefore, if they don't have lactose, a child can ably digest them. Most times when a child is allergic, that would mean that they are deficient of the lactase enzyme that is responsible for digesting the lactose within milk. So there's an option of giving the child lactose-free milk. In situations where a child is not allergic, you have to look out for other sources of calcium and phosphorus. And there are so many, because those are the main two elements that are needed in the first 2 years of a child's life. So you could give things like soya, oats, millet porridge, plain without milk. Most children will enjoy it and they will not even notice that it's not that sweet. Here at Princeton, if a parent brought us a child that is a picky eater, we'd pick special interest in such a child. We have uh, dietitians and nutritionists that work with us. We have nurses that have been trained in nutrition. And in some instances, we recommend particular books for mothers to get and get trained, like they train themselves on how to deal with a picky eater. Yeah, to add on to that, we have allocated special days when we give particular attention to children that are having nutrition problems. On such days, we also do nutritional assessment. A mother will come in, we assess the child's weight, their height, and we get to tell the mother whether the child is having the appropriate weight for age, whether they are stunted. And in severe situations, we get to refer such cases to the nutrition unit in Mulago for further management. Now, for any mother that has a toddler or an infant, it's very important to make sure that your child gets enough carbohydrates, enough proteins, enough vitamins and minerals. So the foods that are very important to give to a baby. For the carbohydrates, we have things like bread, we have things like rice, we have things like sweet potatoes, the usual foods that we get from the market. Try to refrain from giving sweetened beverages because they have very high sugar that can actually make the child hyperactive or that can dehydrate the child. So try as much as possible to make sure that your child eats a natural diet. Then for multivitamins, you have to do a lot of vegetables, things like broccoli, the likes of leafy vegetables like cabbage, carrots, etc. For fruits, we have varieties. There are so many children that will not touch a fruit, but trust me, when you blend it or make passion fruit out of it, they'll get to enjoy it. So make an effort and make sure that your child is availed with a glass of juice every day because it's very, very nutritious. Then for fats, you can do things like yogurt, milk, add a little butter to their mashed food. Yes. So from the time a baby is born, they should take breast milk till the age of 6 months. But our African children tend to be fast bloomers. So some of them will eat as early as 4 months. So if your child is that type, or if your baby is that type of baby, it's okay. You can start a little early, but you need to be cautious with what you give. And you have to do it in a gradual manner. You don't give all things at once. So commonly we wean our babies at 6 months. You try out, you have to start off with things like soup, then you do porridge, you keep on thickening the consistency of the food depending on the way the child is handling the food. So you could do things like pumpkins. You put in any soup that you have in the house. It could be chicken, it could be meat, it could be groundnut paste. You could also try out mashed Irish potato. You could do a little yogurt, yeah, as a snack. Then mashed banana is also very important. Mashed fruits in general, bananas, pawpaws, avocados. At about the age of 6 months, a baby should be able to eat any food that is mashable, as long as you're sure they're not allergic to it. So it's not good to limit them. I've come across mothers who don't offer salt and sugar to their babies. You imagine you, the adult, being offered food that has no salt every day. It's not bad to offer your baby salt or sugar, as long as you do it in the right quantities. Because remember, this child is going to reach a certain age and they are going to be offered food elsewhere and they'll tell you, but mommy, this tastes funny, you know? So it's important to introduce them to all such tests as early as 6 months. Sugar has no harm as long as you're not giving ready sugar. So at the age of around 9 months, that's when you start offering them food they can chew. Though some babies, actually most of our African babies, can chew food way below that age. You'll find many of them in the village, like munching on a piece of cassava or, watermelon. So every child is different. So 9 months, that's when you start offering finger foods. Yeah, things like mangoes, watermelon, a bit of bread. Yes, then at 1 year, that's around the time a child should be able to eat normal food, served at the table with all the other adults. But if you have a picky eater, you need to put in time, because if your child misses out on such nutrients, it's going to affect them in terms of their immunity, their weight gain, and even growth. So at the age of 2, a child should be able to eat a banana out of, the peels. Yes, they should be able. That's when you should really allow them experiment with all kinds of food. Though I have to emphasize, it's not good to tempt them with sugary stuff, things like biscuits, ice cream. So those should be special treats, like maybe once in a while when you moved out with them. Don't buy them and start stocking them up in the house. Sodas, instead of a soda, it's best you offer a natural juice, the usual passion fruit juice. Yeah, most times it's us parents who tempt our children. So if you don't tempt them, they will not even know about soda. Abdominal colic per se occurs below the age of 3 months. For some babies, it may go up to the age of 5. Most children get colic because of the enzymes that are produced within the stomach. So it's always best to keep your baby satisfied. Literature says the likes of Bonisan and then Infaco may actually have no great role in relieving colic. The best way to relieve colic is to make sure that your child has enough satiety 24 hours. So breastfeed on demand, such that you're utilizing the enzymes that are being produced within the stomach. Yes. And most times colic is not associated with picky eating, because remember, during that time you're only offering milk per se. So the picky eating comes in at about 6 months. Yes. And remember, as a mother, never leave the house without telling whether you're leaving the baby with what your baby is going to eat. Yes. Most of our nannies do a good job, but majority of them are not educated in such matters. So you have to really put in time and you come up with a short menu to show her that at breakfast, I expect the baby to eat this. At lunch, I expect the baby to be offered this. And when you come back from work, try to monitor and see has the baby eaten? Tell her to leave the dishes behind for you so that you can have a real hands-on whether your baby is eating or not. Because any baby that is born with a weight below that, most times they have low birth weight. So that would mean that you need to really work hard and make sure that the baby gets to catch up. Actually, most pediatricians will tell you your baby was born with low birth weight, so they tend to monitor such babies more closely because they may end up with things like hypothermia or even other complications related to low birth weight. Every week from the age of 1 month, a child should be from birth, a child should put at least 200 grams of weight. They should add 200 grams of weight. Then after that, it tends to reduce. It tends to reduce. At the age of 3 months, the baby should have doubled their birth weight. So if they were born with a weight of about 3, at 3 months, they should be at least 6 kilos. Then moving on, they should be able to add, like if a child is 4 months, they shouldn't be below 4 kilos. That will be very low, but rather weight for age. It's really important to always make sure that during the immunization visits, you get to remind the health worker, that's if they've not checked on the baby's weight, to weigh the baby, and then they plot. Yeah, there are situations where some clinics are so busy, so some health workers may not pay attention to that, but it's also important. So a child's weight has to be plotted on a growth chart, and there are certain percentiles we follow. So your baby's weight shouldn't fall off the 50th percentile. Yes. So picky eating is a problem that cuts across all age groups. And remember, it can have very serious repercussions. It can give children nutrition problems. A child can end up malnourished. They can end up obese. They can end up with problems to do with the joints, or even osteoporosis, where bones easily break simply because they are not taking things that are having the right nutrients, the multivitamins and vitamins. Long term, it can affect the well-being of a child. In certain situations, a child's performance at school may actually be affected simply because they're not getting proper meals. You imagine a child that presents to school without breakfast. They're not going to be able to have the right attention in school. So it's a problem that most parents need to give special attention and work hard towards, alleviating it. Thank you so much. I would like to thank you, BC, for the opportunity they are giving to all health workers. It's really important for us to educate our population, and we hope that this program goes a long way to help many of our families.